Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera. So in this video I will explain about hormones in mammals. The learning outcomes for this subtopic is to state the types and characteristics of hormones. Then state the types of mechanism of hormone action and explain the mechanism of hormone action. There are two mechanisms that will be discussed. First is gene activation and then second messenger or CAMP activation. Let's learn a preview of what endocrine system is. Endocrine system consists of ductless glands which secrete hormones. Hormones are then transported by the bloodstream to a specific target organs or cell. There are three types of hormones. First is the proteins or peptide hormones, which is water soluble. The examples of these hormones are glucagon, ADH, oxytocin, FSH, LH, and TSH. TSH is thyroid stimulating hormone. Means hormones are derived from amino acid such as thyroid hormone that are derived from tyrosine and iodide. Then we also have the third one is the steroid, the lipid soluble hormone, which is derived from cholesterol such as cortisol, testosterone, progesterone, and estrogen. Hormones are soluble, either water soluble or lipid soluble. They are soluble so that they are easy to enter the bloodstream, and their effects are specific. A type of hormone induces a change on a particular target organs, and hormones are needed in small amount. So in low concentration, it can cause desired effects such as insulin. Small amount of insulin can stimulate conversion of glucose into glycogen. Then usually higher concentration can lead to inhibition of their action. For example, testosterone, we have learned that if testosterone is secreted in higher amount, in the high concentration of testosterone will inhibit the anterior pituitary from secreting FSH and LH. Deficient or excessive amount can give bad effects in growth and development. For example, thyroid hormone, kita ada penyakit hypothyroidism. Kalau sikit sangat, badan kita susah, pertumbuhan badan akan terganggu. Ada juga kes penyakit hyperthyroidism. Jadi awak boleh google lah untuk dapatkan maklumat tentang penyakit ni. Jadi macam mana Hormones, the effects of hormones are usually slow. It does not cause immediate effect, but the effects can be permanent. Tapi ada juga hormones yang boleh efek secara dia nak kata cepat tak cepat lah, macam insulin kan, bila kita ambil gula dalam tempoh beberapa jam barulah ada kesan yang penurunan glukos dalam darah. Jadi dia tak secepat immediate, tak immediate. Hormone travels in blood. So hormones are secreted directly into the bloodstream to be transported to a targeted organ. There are two mechanisms that can explain hormone action. The first mechanism is gene activation, which involves steroid hormone. Steroid hormones mean they are lipid soluble. Gene activation also can diffuse easily through plasma membrane of target cell. So sebab tu bila kita nak lukis diagram bagi gene activation, this is the hormone, kita boleh tunjukkan dia pass through the plasma membrane and then bind to a receptor. Jadi berada di dalam, dia boleh masuk dalam sel. For CAMP activation, it involves the protein or peptide hormones, which is water soluble. So they are non-steroid hormone. Since they are non-steroid hormone, they cannot diffuse or pass through the plasma membrane of target cell. Jadi kalau kita lukis hormon peptide ni, hormon protein, dia hanya akan sampai plasma membrane and then bind to the receptor at the plasma membrane. Let's look at the diagram or the explanation of gene activation. Gene activation, the steroid hormone diffuse into cytoplasm through plasma membrane of the target cell. Jadi kalau progesterone target cell dia progesterone dia punya target cell dia adalah rahim perempuan lah, iaitu the uterus cell. Okay, jadi since progesterone increase the dia punya apa nama, pembentukan rahim, dia enhance the shape of the uterus and helps in menstruation kan, increase the thickness of the menstrual lining. Jadi dia akan pass through the plasma membrane of the target cell. In the cytoplasm, the hormone bind to the receptor protein in the cytoplasm. The receptor is in the cytoplasm. The binding of hormone to the receptor protein will form hormone receptor complex. Right. Then hormone receptor complex will pass through the nuclear membrane and bind to the DNA. Ini DNA kita lah. It will bind to the DNA to a specific gene on DNA. Kena ada perkataan ni, specific gene on DNA. So once the hormone receptor complex bind to the specific gene, it will lead to transcription. Okay, it will lead to transcription of that specific gene and produce mRNA. Yeah, this is the transcription process. What you have learned before in semester 1. I hope you still remember. Then the mRNA will move to cytoplasm. And bind to the ribosome to continue with translation. The mRNA will be translated into a new protein or an enzyme that is needed for that particular effect. Yang diperlukan lah, needed. The specific protein will produce a specific response. To gene activation ada 8. You have to memorize this. So this is the summary of what I have explained just now. CAMP activation. In plasma membrane, the peptide hormone cannot pass through the plasma membrane. And the hormone cannot pass through the plasma membrane. So it acts as first messenger. So it will bind to the receptor on the plasma membrane and form hormone receptor complex. The hormone receptor complex then will go to the G protein. It will bind to the G protein and then activate the G protein. So then the activated G protein will bind to and activate. Mesti kena ada perkataan ni, will bind to and activate. Bind to the adenylyl cyclase. So the activated mesti ada. Activated G protein will bind to the adenylyl cyclase and activate the adenylyl cyclase. So what happened to adenylyl cyclase? Adenylyl cyclase, the activated adenylyl cyclase will catalyze the conversion of ATP to CAMP. So this is what we need for the effect, that we want, the targeted effect. Because CAMP is the second messenger. This hormone is the first messenger. CAMP, then ATP converted to CAMP, and then CAMP as a second messenger will activate a variety of protein kinase. The activated protein kinase will phosphorylate another protein by cascade effect. Dia akan phosphorylate another protein. So the cascade effect ni contohnya jujukan lah. Jujukan. A series of other protein. Activate a series of other protein. So a series of responses will be triggered. So berbanding dengan gene activation tadi, CAMP activation ni ada 6 step yang boleh kita memorize lah. Yang ini dia tak perlu hafal lah. Cuba tengok dan fahamkan ni yang dikatakan cascade effect. Macam dominus effect kan, dominus effect. Ingat tak dominus effect? Dia letak dia susun, lepas tu dia jatuhkan satu, semua jatuh. Jadi berjujukan turutan series of action. So boleh baca sini apa yang dikatakan, apa penerangan tadi sama dengan yang dah saya baca tadi. So ni cellular response ni. Inilah contoh glycogen converted to glucose, contohnya untuk glucagon. Let's compare between gene activation and CAMP activation. Bila kita compare sebenarnya bila kita compare, we are actually analysing the two facts that we have, ataupun dua benda. Kita analyse apa pengetahuan yang kita ada tentang perkara tersebut. So it must go with similarity and differences together. Gene activation and CAMP activation are both involve a very specific target cells. Jadi dia tak sembarang-sembarang lah. Contoh macam insulin, glucagon, different target cells is the liver cells. And then both type of hormones will bind to a specific receptor. So they need a receptor. They do not form the stimulation. Dia bukan dia yang merangsang. Dia mesti merangsang bersama dengan receptor. So both tu memang perlukan receptor. But the difference is, there are so many differences, a few. Gene activation can diffuse into plasma membrane of target cell. CAMP activation cannot diffuse to plasma membrane of target cells. The hormone binds in receptor, the hormone will bind to the receptor in cytoplasm to form hormone receptor complex, while for CAMP activation, the hormone binds to the receptor in plasma membrane to form hormone receptor complex. The gene activation, the hormone receptor complex will activate gene on DNA. Manakala CAMP activation, the hormone receptor complex activate the G protein. So it does not involve the gene. Okay, there is no production of CAMP in gene activation. Well, in CAMP activation, nama pun dah ada CAMP, so it will produce CAMP from ATP. Then for gene activation, the process of transcription and translation occurs. No, CAMP activation does not involve transcription and translation. And there is no cascade effect in gene activation, while CAMP activation shows that there is a cascade effect. DPT ni yang paling penting. Sepatutnya yang ini duduk di sebelum ni kan. Gene activation produce a long term effect. Contohnya testosterone. Dia punya effect dia long term. Ada kalau lelaki ambil testosterone lebih, dia akan muscle. Sebab tu lelaki sepatutnya kalau ikut kepada fitrah, dia menghasilkan testosterone lebih, dia lebih muscular. Pembinaan otot lebih banyak daripada yang perempuan lah. Kan? Jadi dia long term effect. Dia tak ada hari ni otot naik, esok dia tiba-tiba turun otot. Tak ada. Effect dia long term. It produce bagi CAMP activation, it produce short term effect. Contohnya insulin terlibat untuk menurunkan aras glukos dalam darah. Jadi sekejap dalam masa 22 jam, dia walaupun dia slow tapi dia punya effect dia short term. Sebab nanti bila orang makan balik gula akan naik balik dia punya aras glukos dalam darah. Betul tak? Predict what will happen if you injected an insulin, water-soluble hormone, directly into the cytosol of a target cell, liver cell. So, ni cuba fikirkan dan bagi jawapan nanti kat saya. Dan kalau tak faham boleh tanya agak-agak dia apa jawapan dia.